Welcome back to the Longview PD On Air podcast. I'm Michaela Vaughn.
And I'm Ladarian Brown. Today's episode is all about transparency, accountability, and understanding the numbers that help shape public safety right here in the city of Longview.
So, we're diving into the crime stats for 2025, what the data tells us, trends, and what that means for our community moving forward.
And Michaela, whom better to walk us through this than our very own Assistant Chief of Police in the person of Assistant Chief Lair. Chief, thank you for joining us, sir.
Good to be here.
Thank you. You are the crime stats guy.
I don't want that kind of pressure.
So, jumping right in, just when people hear crime stats, they may just think numbers. Why are these stats important?
Well, for the public, I think it is important so they've got a good idea of what's going on in their community. For us as an agency, I think it's one of the barometers, one of the things we use to see how we're doing.
Gotcha.
See how we need to change what we're doing, if what we're doing is being effective. Yeah, I think it plays all those roles. You know, for so long, the city was known, right or wrong, was known as a really kind of a rough, violent place. If you go back several years.
Oh, yeah. Used to have the nickname Murder View.
It did. And I can remember in the 90s going to training out of town and people would ask me where I worked and I would say I worked for Longview PD and they would go, oh, just because we had the reputation, again, right or wrong, of a rough place to work. That affects the community just because businesses, people wanting to move. Nobody wants to move to a place where they're scared of what's going to happen to them. So I think it's important that we review those numbers for lots of reasons.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So before we get into the data, how do we get the data?
Well, as I'm sure both of y'all are aware working here, and so everybody listening can know, we are a data-driven agency.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Everything is... Don't come tell me what you think. Show me the data.
Yep.
That's how we determine where we put our resources. So all the technology we have in the cars, in the offices, we track every piece of data there is. So every time a police report is written, if it is an offense report for a crime, the computer-aided dispatch and RMS system that we had, it automatically pulls those things and sends those things to Austin for validation. And while that sounds like a bunch of technical garb that nobody cares about, that keeps us from being able to manipulate the data. I don't have people in there touching the data and saying, I don't want, that to be that. Once that report is taken and approved in the system, it automatically gets shipped off. And so that's where our crime stats come from. They're coming from the police reports that we write. Of all kinds. Every one of those goes into a database. It's called NIBRS, the National Incident-Based Reporting System. And that's how we determine what our crime stats are. We take other stats. We take as far as when you start talking about accidents, or as we call them, crashes. Those come from the state. We enter those into the computer system for those. That's where the people get their crash report to file on their insurance. So that's where we get those numbers. But y'all know we track how many calls come into the station, how long it takes us to get to calls. There is not a single thing that we do that we don't track the data trying to keep up with our efficiency.
And the data kind of affects a lot of aspects of the community, even grants and things of that nature. Sometimes data is used not just by us, but for other people within the community that are getting grants.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there's a single grant application that I've ever seen or been part of, like you said, not just internally for the police department. What's the crime data? What's the demographic data of your city? What's the population of your city? And all of those things play into just a myriad of subjects.
Makes sense. So let's dig off into these numbers and to the data. So since you're the numbers guy, where do you want to start with that?
Well, I was here, about a year ago, talking about crime stats on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like we'll do today. We had talked about previous years, and I gave a little bit of insight into 2024, but because they hadn't been completely finalized, published by the state, when we sent them in, I had to just give you, for lack of a better word, guesstimates. They're not really guesses. We know what we reported, but through validations, those numbers change. So I can start with telling you what our 2024 crime stats were, the official numbers that
Sure.
anybody can go online and see. So anybody wants to go check me, you can go on the DPS or on an FBI site and find them. So let's talk about what numbers we're talking about first of all.
Okay.
We have what's called Part 1 crimes. That's an FBI term. I don't get to make those terms. They make the terms. They decide what stats we report. They decide the definition of those stats, and it's the same across the nation. And so the numbers that they use
So before you go off into that, Chief, what is a Part 1 crime?
Well, they are the ones that we report and that we look at are homicides. They call it rape, even though that's not the name of the offense in Texas. It's called sexual assault, but it's the same thing. They do homicide, rape, assaults, robberies, burglaries, larcenies or thefts, and then motor vehicle thefts.
Mm.
Now, they also track arsons, but we have a fire marshal's office that investigates those, so we do not track arson for the Longview Police Department.
So we don't have to report that at all.
We do not. The fire department does that.
Gotcha. So let's talk about those numbers. What does the 2024 numbers look like?
Our total for 2024, which we call a crime index, which is nothing more than taking all of those numbers and adding them all up to one number, and that's your city's crime index. And for 2024, our number was 2,252. That included 9 homicides, about 1,500 thefts. I guess for a layperson sitting out there going 2,000 crimes, man, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds terrible to the average person.
Well, to give you an idea where we're coming from, and we'll talk more as we go when you start getting into real crazy history, in as recent as 2015, that number was 4,461.
Ooh.
So in 9 years.
In 9 years, we've cut that number in half.
Wow. That's that 2,000 did sound like a lot, but that 4,000 sounded god awful. So
well,
the fact that we've cut
as
it in
we
half
go,
is,
I can tell you that in the 90s there were some years where those numbers were. One of them was 8,943.
so it sounds like things have improved drastically. When
They
it comes
really
down to Part
have.
1 crimes.
They really have. We're sitting, especially if you look historically, we are sitting in a really good place. As far back as I can check stats that I can actually pull and see myself, 2024 was the lowest we have.
Oh, wow.
And here's the big spoiler: 2025 is going to be lower than 2024.
Wow.
So we've gone down again.
But that goes against completely when everyone says the crime is getting out of hand and it's gotten worse.
It does. Why do you think that is? I know why I think it is. Why do you think it is?
Well, based off of what what I do professionally, it's going to be because of the news, social media. We have access to a heck of a lot more information than what we used to.
We do.
And, you know, the way how stuff is set up on social media, you look at one thing, it's going to keep bringing that subject and that type of stuff up in front of you. So I think that's going to play a large part in why people think crime is just completely out of control here.
I think you're absolutely right. And I love the word you used. You said information. Not all the information you see on social media or in other places is always factual data or accurate. It's just information that somebody's putting out there.
Right.
You know, I've worked here for 35 years, which is, you know, longer than some of the people in this podcast have been alive.
That'd be
Me.
me. Oh.
I guess longer than both of you have been alive. Thanks for that. That makes me feel good. But if I think back to, I spent like my first 12 years here working the midnight shift.
Okay.
And so if I was out at 2:00 in the morning, working some crime scene, maybe it was a shooting that had happened and I'm out there working. Other than the people on that block and the other people at the police department, nobody knew that was even going on.
No.
And we didn't have a media development person, and we didn't do all the press releases that we do today. So if it didn't get put out,
They didn't know.
nobody knew. Fast forward to today, if I have 4 police cars end up at the same location
There's a picture on Facebook, and folks
Oh,
are
it's
asking what
on
happened.
the Facebook page, and everybody's what's going on Judson Road, and there's some, the police are, and maybe it's a call for service. Maybe it was a disabled vehicle, and we had to block some intersections to get it off. There could be any number of things, but when the public sees that, they automatically assume that there's 4 police cars. We've had some major incident going on, and then Ladarian, you hit on it. You've got the algorithm,
Right. They don't push the boring stuff.
No, once you start reading one crime story,
You're just
Here
getting
come the
all the
rest
rest
of
of them.
your feed's just going to be full of them feeding it to you over and over again. And then you think about 24-hour news cycles.
Right.
Mhm.
They don't push the boring news stories.
No, and I was telling the group the other day, if we had a day where there was 0 crime in Longview, we didn't take a single police report, nobody's clicking on that story.
No.
Nope.
And so they're not going to post that story. But if we, the next day we have a crime, now everybody's going to click on it. So people get a false idea of what's really going on. I like to ask the new recruits when they get out of the police academy what they think about what's happening with crime in the world and what's happening with crime. And it's out of control. It's up. It's terrible. And that's just really not the reality of it.
And that's people who don't do this profession, who are not in this profession. So it's easy to think that crime is just completely out of control. So that's the part one crimes. Let's talk about the other ones. So traffic stops. I know traffic stops is a big thing. People are always seeing. I mean, with me being the person that watches social media, people are always talking about that they see us out a heck of a lot more now.
They do.
With traffic stops. Let's talk about that.
So traffic stops is as you're well aware, is a pretty big thing to me that we'll talk about. But traffic stops for us, and let me just, if you can wait, give me a little leeway before I get into the numbers. Here's what's crazy. We talk about crime, and everybody talks about, and we're going to talk about crime stats and what's going on. My position here for the last several years, I make mini town hall meetings, all sorts of community meetings, and we show up prepared to answer any questions that they're going to have the police. And we're thinking they're going to talk about the crime going on. What do you think the number one thing people always ask us about at these crime meetings that we go to, these community meetings?
Traffic.
Yep, people running red lights, people speeding, crashes that are going on. That seems to be the public's number one concern, and rightfully so. So in answer to your question, our traffic stops are growing exponentially. If you go back to say 2022, we were averaging somewhere around 20,000 traffic stops a year, give or take 1,000 each year. I'm not looking specifically at those numbers right now, but I would say in the obviously the COVID years, traffic stops were way down. There weren't many people on the road, and we weren't sure if we needed to be interacting with people in those situations. Yeah. But if you go back to 2022, I think we were somewhere around 21,000 traffic stops. In 2025, we had 47,000 traffic stops.
Ooh.
So
big difference.
That's more than doubled in just a few years. And I like what you said. That's the purpose of that is not to write tickets. It is to be visible and to impact people's behavior just by our visibility.
Yeah, because I was just about to ask, why you just said, traffic stops are very important to you. And I was going to ask, why is it? But go ahead.
Well, our sole purpose here, and more for our listeners than you, because you've heard me say this before, mm-hmm. The reality is I will never write enough tickets to stop crashes from happening. I can never arrest enough people to stop crime from happening. So what our purpose here is to do is to prevent crime, prevent crashes. Our success, in fact, I was ready for this. The father of modern day policing is a guy from England in the 1830s called
Sir Robert Peel.
Sir Robert Peel. There's a guy who's taken a criminal justice course before, right? And he came up with 9 principles of policing, which were probably kind of crazy at the time. But if you go read through all 9 of them years and years later, they're probably more applicable today than they were then. And what he said in the 9th principle was, The test of police efficiency is the absence of crime and disorder, not the visible evidence of police action in dealing with it. And what that really means is different agencies judge themselves in different ways. And that's fine. That's their philosophy. And a lot of police officers, a lot of police agencies, how many arrests did you make? How many traffic stops did you make? Those are fine stats to look at. Those are fine things to know. And if I want those stats at the Longview Police Department, I can go run those stats. But I'm really more concerned about what the impact was of those traffic stops. What did that do for me?
Okay.
As opposed to, did I just go find some random place where you're coming over a hill and the speed limit drops and I can sit there and write a bunch of tickets, but nothing's happening there. So the traffic stops to me are all about putting the people where the problems are and get visibility so I can prevent people from running red lights and causing crashes. Maybe because they see us, they don't break into the car at the parking lot. That's why they're a big thing to me. I want to put, there's actually a lot of research out there that says that if a police car stays in a given area for as much as 12 to 16 minutes during an hour, there is a statistically significant reduction in crime in that area and in crashes. That's a pretty cool stat to me to start with. But then if you go in, and I think that reduction is like 4%. If you turn y'all have heard me call them, if you turn the woo-woos on, right? If you turn the little red and blue lights on and somebody sees that number jumps into double-digit reductions. So for us, it's not about tickets. I can't even tell you how many tickets we write. It's not about anything other than putting the cars where my problems are, stopping people, educating them. Are there going to be people that get tickets? Sure there are, because there's going to be some things that are so bad that just needed to happen and it needed to be some sort of consequence to the action. But primarily it's educational and it's visibility so that everybody else sees those lights and they don't run that red light and have that crash, or they don't go break into that car they were thinking about breaking into. It's about visibility and the reduction of crime.
So can you go in where you don't have the official 2025 stats yet, but can you give us the guesstimate like you did with the 2024 stats before?
Sure. So I told you that 2024s were, the total was 2,252. Right now, for what we believe our internal numbers are 2,170, which is about overall 3.5% decrease from 2024. That number will probably go down a little bit. It usually does after DPS does all the validations and make sure the data is correct. But we're going to be somewhere in the area of close to 4% less than we were from what was already our lowest year of crime.
So we're still getting even lower.
We are. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things that affect crime stats. It's not all about the police. There's sometimes there's a lot of things that play into that. So there's some things that will lower your crime stats that may not have anything. There's things that raise crime stats that don't always have anything to do with the police. But the coolest number is 2025, because the number that everybody cares about is homicide numbers, right?
Right.
It's the murder capital of what, everybody wants to know how many murders you had. Our number for last year is going to be 4.
Oh, wow.
That's 4 too many, but that is significantly lower than what it has been in the past.
Oh, I mean, I remember I started in 2013, and so my years on patrol for a while there, it was like 1 a month.
I spent 10 years working those crimes in our crimes against persons section. And 2015, for an example, we had 15 murders that year. We had 14 in 2016. So yeah, 4. Well, again, is 4 too many?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're definitely headed in the right direction.
So, Chief, let's talk about the crashes. I know you just finished telling us that traffic stops play a big part in crash reductions. So, what do those numbers look like?
Well, a quick glance at just the overall crash numbers. In 2023, we had, for the year, 2,581 crashes. So you start looking at that, you're looking at over 200 crashes a month. 2025's numbers, where we had 2,338, which is a small reduction. It's not a huge reduction. But when you start looking at numbers, and this is the part that makes it more of an art than a science, maybe. It's easy to say this is the number I had that year and this is the number I had this year. And so what did you do? I don't think anybody would argue there's more cars and traffic going on in Longview than there were 5 years ago.
Takes me forever to get home. I'll
It
say
does.
yes, definitely it's more cars.
So sometimes a win is breaking even. If you think about it, if I've got just 10,000 more cars that are driving in Longview in a year, but my crashes stay the same or go down, for me, that's a win.
Right.
Now, if I could say that in 2020, I had the same number of cars on the road, in 2025, I have the same number of cars, then it's just numbers to numbers. Do I want to see crashes go down further? I do. Crashes are a huge drain on the resources of the police department. They are a huge drain on the resources of our fire department. And bigger than that, think if anybody's ever been involved in a crash, the messing with the insurance companies and getting your car fixed. And is your car ever right when you get it back? Does it ever feel the same as it was before the crash?
No.
Yeah. And then God forbid somebody's hurt.
Right.
And so then you've got the injuries that you're dealing with. I was watching a show the other day. They were talking about how high insurance rates are for car insurance in Texas. And this is something people don't think about when they, get mad because the police wrote them a ticket. Insurance rates are high in Texas because Texas is the number one in the nation for the number of crashes, the number of fatality crashes, the number of DWI crashes. If there is a crash statistic out there, Texas has more than any other state, which then turns around leading. We talk about, y'all hear me use the term social harms, which basically means quality of life. We want to make the quality of life better. The more we can reduce crashes, the better quality of life, because A, you're not dealing with the insurance company getting hurt. It also affects your insurance rates.
Property crime trends, are we needing to tell people to lock their cars, hide things in their cars, anything like that?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Our property crimes are trending down.
Okay.
In fact, thefts alone are down from being in the 3,000s 5 years ago into the 1,500s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty big, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's everything from shoplifting to somebody came in and stole my lawnmower while I was at work.
Okay.
But we talked a while ago about there's lots of things that can affect your crime stats. And one of those is the public being vigilant about taking care of their part of it.
Okay.
We're going to be in the neighborhoods. We're going to be visible. We're going to try to catch those that we don't prevent. All of those things, we're going to just try to do the best to do our part. But we ask for a little bit of help to lock your doors, hide if you've got to leave stuff, get the stuff out of the car if you can.
Take it, yeah.
Take it inside. But if it's something you're out shopping and you can't, you got to leave, at least hide it, make it difficult. Most of our thefts are crimes of opportunity.
Gotcha.
And if the guy's just walking through the parking lot and of the mall or Walmart or wherever he's at, and there's all these cars, we get the calls. People just walking by pulling on door handles.
Yeah.
And then the bad one for us is, we live in Texas. We know what that means. And what that thing means is almost everybody's carrying a firearm, got it in their car, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's certainly their right. And nobody's trying to step on that and act like we're not okay with that. But if you leave that in your car,
yeah,
whether at your house overnight or at the mall when you're shopping, and especially if you don't lock your door, because we work a lot of thefts where somebody left their gun in their car and didn't lock their door.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whose hands that gun got into. And so now my property crime is possibly playing into now my violent crime because I've armed a criminal. Right. They're a criminal because they stole it, right? And now I've armed them by leaving my gun unsecured. So the public plays a big role in what they can do to help us with these crime stats.
Folks, lock your stuff up, please.
Lock
your stuff.
There's the PAR officer coming out.
Take your stuff in the house. Do not leave guns in the car. So, Chief, we've kind of been all over the place with numbers. I just want to give you time to just do a full rundown of what our 2025 numbers.
Our 2025 numbers, I'll just go down through each category. For homicide, we've got 4. And again, these are unofficial, so don't somebody come back later after DPS publishes them and tell me that I lied on the podcast. The forcible rape, or as in Texas we would call it sexual assault, is 85. Aggravated assaults are 172 for a total of 262 violent crimes. And then we had 35 robberies, 191 burglaries, 1,525 larcenies or thefts, and then 157 vehicle thefts.
That larceny and theft, like, give an example of what that is.
It can be everything from shoplifting.
Gotcha.
It can be, like I said a while ago, somebody walked by and stole your weed eater, your lawnmower out of your carport. The state definitions don't always match up with the federal definitions that we report under. That's why some of those titles are not the same as what we call them. But that's the best idea when you start thinking about larceny and theft. Everything from shoplifting to just somebody stole my purse.
Okay. What are some of the outside factors that go into crime stats?
A big one is the economy.
Okay.
I mean, nationwide, you can always figure when the economy's booming and everything's good, that typically means people have money, people have jobs, less time to be dealing with crime, less need for theft, less need for stealing, breaking into. When economic times get bad and are on a downturn, a lot of times that can play into more crime because more people feel a need to steal and do those types of illegal activities. The one that nobody thinks about, though, is demographics as it relates to the age of your population. Most of our crimes, and when I say most, I don't mean most of Longview, I mean most of the police, the nation's crimes, are typically committed by people from about 16 years old to 25 years old.
That's not surprising.
Yeah, no, you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Your
your brain isn't fully developed till 25. I mean, it makes sense.
What are our busiest months at the police department?
Probably summer.
Where are the kids in the summer?
Out of school.
Not in school, right? There, y'all nailed it. And so our calls go up, our crimes go up, right?
Yeah.
So that's the demographic in the population that commits most of our crimes. Well, think about baby boomers. Our the age of your population changes over time. There's times based on the birth rates and death rates and all that stuff that your population gets older, and then as more babies are born, maybe it turns into younger. So the age of your population, both in Longview and nationwide, can absolutely affect your crime stats. If you have a huge population of that 16 to 25 age group, chances are your numbers are going to go up.
Gotcha.
If you get into an aging population, like me, because you're making faces at me as I'm saying aging population, we're too old and tired to be doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of things that are out of our control on crime stats. We try to control what we can control.
Gotcha.
Even on the crimes that we think we can, property crimes I can have a great effect on because my visibility may keep somebody from, like I said earlier, breaking into a car, stealing something. When you think about the violent crimes, think about just from an assault, from a domestic standpoint, you're going to have a family violence type of situation. There's no way I can know or be somewhere to prevent a husband and wife or whatever that household dynamic is from getting mad and having an assault in that moment. Those are some numbers that it sounds terrible, but are to some extent out of our control.
Correct. Yeah.
Because I just can't be there when murder to some extent. A lot of murders are just crimes of passion and crimes of the moment.
Gotcha.
And how do you know when and where that's going to take place to be visible and be able to stop that?
That makes sense. What makes us different from other places?
As far as how we go about our business?
Yes. Yeah.
I think what I said a while ago was we're less focused on the tools of our trade. We're less focused on arrest and tickets. And I don't want anybody to listen to that and say Longview Police Department doesn't want to arrest people or is not going to write any tickets, because that's not the case.
Not at all.
But because there's people out there right now going, they wrote me a ticket yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we don't do that. But we use those things as a means to an end and not as the measure of our success. Our success is to make these numbers go down and improve people's quality of life. And I want to prevent those things. Most law enforcement agencies in 2026 are using some sort of intelligence-led policing, some sort of data-driven approach of some metric. We started one in 2017. It's a model, it's a philosophy that we've managed to, by 2026, turn into our culture of how we do business, and it works for us. That's not to throw stones at whatever other agencies are doing. You talked about crime, maybe going up somewhere else and maybe going up or down here. This is what blows people's mind. If I went into the public, if I asked you to, nationwide, what has crime done in the last 25 years, or even go back as far as the 1970s and 80s, what has crime done nationwide? And y'all would probably tell me it's skyrocketed. Yet the truth of the matter is, even nationwide, violent crime is down dramatically from what it was in the 70s and 80s. You always have pockets of different parts of the country, just like sometimes you have them in a city where different pockets of a city will have a bit of an uptick. But we are trending in the right direction. Statewide, nationwide, crime is really going down. And I don't know that everybody can claim some of half the crime we had 10 years ago like we can, but it is on a downward trend.
So we've talked a little about being a data-driven law enforcement agency. Can you talk about DDAX and what that is?
DDAX is an acronym because, in police work, we love our acronyms, right?
Yes,
absolutely.
we do.
Everything's got it. But it stands for Data-Driven Approaches to Crime and Traffic Safety.
Okay.
It's a really cool model is probably the best way to call it, because it's not a program. There's all sorts of police programs that you can bring somewhere where we're going to do this for the next 6 months. It's more of a strategy, a philosophy, and as you like to hear me say, it's the culture of how you do your business. And all that means is when through research you can look, and we're bad in police work about chasing what we call hotspots. And DDEX is a hotspot philosophy.
Okay.
But what we do in police work is, what I like to say is, we're just chasing yesterday's police reports. I had a crime yesterday, so I'm going to go over there yesterday. It's like playing whack-a-mole. You never catch the mole, right?
Yeah.
The crime popped up in this neighborhood yesterday, so I run and put police over there. Well, that's not where the crime is today, so then I go chase tomorrow, and I chase the next day. And I'm always a day behind trying to figure out where crime is. So in this philosophy, we run at least 3 years of data and figure out where it congregates historically.
Okay.
Instead of just going what happened yesterday. And then you find those areas where you have lots of crashes, where you have lots of crimes. Most of the time, believe it or not, those are going to be in the same place. Every once in a while, you'll get one that just has crashes or one that just has crimes, but usually they're in the same place. And so the philosophy is, you find those places where the problems are, and then that's how you deploy your resources. So doesn't mean that we're going to ignore every street in Longview other than these places, because we're absolutely not.
Right.
We're going to be there. But when we have time in between calls, and when we have directed initiatives or any of those things, I want my cars to my officers be in their cars and putting their efforts in these identified areas where I know crashes and crime are going to occur, because historically that's where they always go. And so I wouldn't have to tell anybody this, if that lives in Longview and knows, I can have a crash on any street. But if I'm going to have a crash in Longview, where do y'all think it's likely going to happen?
Like
The
loop
loop.
and forth. Yeah.
Okay, you just nailed our highest crash areas. On the loop, from about Judson Road to about Eastman Road, and then up to Hawkins, bringing it back to Judson Road, that is the highest concentration of crashes we've got in our city.
Mm.
And then you can take that and move then over to Gilmer Road in the loop.
Mm.
Lots of crashes on that area. So hopefully, if you're driving around in Longview these days, if you're in those areas, you don't go very long without seeing one of our black and white police cars driving up and down the road, and maybe with their lights being stopped, because I know that's where my crashes are most likely to occur. If you see a police car, think of yourself driving down the interstate,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden, all the traffic has slowed way down. and you're trying to figure out what's going on, and you get up the road, what do you see?
State trooper.
State trooper sitting on the side of the road. And then even after you pass him, what's
I'm
everybody?
still going
yeah,
slow.
everybody.
Yep.
It's another 15 or 20 minutes before everybody finally goes back to driving what they were before they saw him, right?
Yep.
Okay. There is the philosophy nailed down to the most simplest form.
It's funny you mentioned that. We were going to Dallas the other day, and there was a trooper on the other side of the interstate. And I'm police.
Mm-hmm.
But even in my mind, okay, there got to be another one on this side somewhere. So
I do that too.
And so even an individual that's in the profession, we still think the same way.
Are you telling me you were speeding?
No, I didn't say that at all. But moving on.
No, but you do, even if you're not speeding. What's everybody automatically do when they see that police car?
Slow down.
Oh, I sit up and I got both hands on the wheels and I'm like,
10
my
and
eyes
2,
are on the
baby,
road.
10 and
Yeah.
2.
I'm like, I'm not doing anything wrong, right?
So that's really kind of the concept in a nutshell. I mean, it's obviously much more in depth than that, but just for a bird's eye view of it, if I know that I'm having crashes because people are running red lights, for the general public, they don't realize how necessarily hard it can be to stop somebody from running that red light. So, Darren, you've been on the streets before. How hard is it to sit somewhere at 4th and 80 where A, you can see the light turn red, B, know that they entered the intersection after it turned red, and then the hard one, C, be able to get out of where you were and get through traffic to catch up to that violation?
It's very challenging.
It's not. It sounds really easy until you get in a police car and try to do it, and it's a challenge. But if I've got a police car circling in that area, or maybe even having somebody pulled over, and maybe they weren't even pulled over for running a red light, maybe they were pulled over for failing to signal a turn, or maybe they were speeding, or whatever it was, and the public sees those red and blues in that area, what is the likelihood that they're not going to run that red light now?
It's a lot higher.
Yeah, because they're going to pay attention to what they're doing because the police are in the area, just like y'all with the trooper.
Right.
And if I see a couple of cars in that area, man, I'm watching my speedometer, I'm watching the lights, I'm slamming on the brakes instead of punching the gas when I see the yellow light. And that is a way we go about preventing those crashes from coming. I don't want anybody to think we won't write the red light ticket for the ones we can catch. And we run several details still to this day to specifically work intersections where that's a problem. But again, I can't write enough tickets to stop it. So I want to put my visibility out there to make people think about what they're doing. And basically, we're trying to just change driver behavior. We want them to see us and pay attention, get off their phone, stop texting, pay attention. And everybody's happier when they get home without a crashed vehicle and somebody in the hospital.
Absolutely.
It's funny to me, but I'll see on social media people are saying, oh my God, Longview PD is really out today. And I know the staffing that is out there. And I'm like, it really ain't that many of us.
You're just in the area where.
But they just happen to see one officer on a traffic stop. And then while they're, after they've come out of Walmart or whatever, they'll see another officer on a traffic stop. And they're like, my God, how many of them is it out there?
I mean, it happens to me. Like, I'll leave the gym and I'll go to Sonic or something, or like going on the way home and I pass like 8 cops. And I'm like, okay, I understand why people in all things Longview saying, oh, the cops are out today. Because I've seen 8, But I'm in these populated areas.
And you're in the areas where we have those kind of problems. And the beauty of it is, it's not us picking on the people driving on the loop. All of this is done through data. If somebody says, why do you have so many cars working whatever, man, I can get on there and pull up the map, pull up the stats and show you for the last 3 years, these are where my crashes are. That's why I'm there. Or this is where my crime is. That's why we're there. And it's solely based on what the numbers tell us is going on there. Will we still have to play some whack-a-mole along the way for little problems that pop up? Sure. And we do that. Are we still going to work the traffic problem in your neighborhood that's not a big crash problem? We'll still do that. But to Ladarian's point, I've got limited resources. I love to go to these meetings, and Ladarian, you've been in some of them with these community groups. And I tell them, okay, I've made you chief of police for the day. Tell me where you're going to put your cops. And they'll be like, well, I'm going to put one on. And then you start breaking down, well, yeah, I know what our overall staffing is. Some of those people are detectives and some of those people are school resource officers. So I've only got X number in patrol, and now I've got to cover 24 hours a day. And those people get 2 days off a week, and sometimes they're sick, and
You got 8
sometimes
beats.
vacation. They got to train, all those things. Yeah, there's 8 beats. I got to have somebody in every part of the city so I have a good response time for those emergency problems. I can't put somebody on every street. I can't put someone at every intersection. So I've got to use my resources the best. And that's what the data-driven approach is. I am going to concentrate my resources where they can give me the best return on investment, so to speak. In the 70s, it was called cops on dots when they had the little pin maps. Wherever there was a bunch of dots, you put a cop on there, right? Well, now we put technology on it. It's still cops on dots. These are where my problems are. These are where my police need to be.
Okay, so for 2026 and moving forward, what are the priorities of the Longview Police Department?
Well, I think as it relates to stats, is to continue what we're doing. We've got a great downward trend. I want to keep those going. I can't get through a podcast without saying our mantra is providing professional policing.
There you go.
And I want to be better at that. There is always time. There's always a way to improve. We're never going to get there.
Right.
We're going to keep pushing to get whatever that perfect utopia is. We're never going to get there, but I want to be better. We're doing a great job, I think, of doing that constant improvement. We still got work to go. We still make mistakes. We're still doing things probably not as great as I would like us to do. And then part of that is, we're stopping cars and we're affecting some of the stats and some of the crash numbers. But a part that we never talk about, we're talking about crime stats, is every one of these stats is a person.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a crime stat, that's a victim, at least one victim. If that's a crash, that's probably at least two.
Yeah.
Sometimes 3, 4, and 5. I mean, we have some single vehicle crashes, but those are all people. So I don't want anybody to think because we're talking about being a data-driven agency or any of those things that we're not still 100% sold out on being a community policing agency and getting to know our community. So is stopping cars, talking to them about the way they're driving, giving them a warning citation, can that be an experience where we educate and talk to the public? It can, and it's an opportunity for a great interaction if done correctly. But the chief's favorite phrase is, I want my guys to have an out-of-car experience.
Yep.
We've talked about that a lot, right?
Mm.
I want my guys to know their community. That's why we have these smaller beats. I want them, when they're driving by and seeing the people out cooking, I want them to get out the car and ask them what they're having for dinner and have a little chat and get to know the people, let the people know them, be approachable.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they'll throw them a little food on the side. I don't know. Darian knows when I worked the streets, that was my thing. If I saw somebody cooking, I was going to get out and hopefully I was going to get me some barbecue because Darian likes to eat. But man, what a great way to know your community. So
absolutely.
To me, that's a big part of what I think one of our goals is to take the professional policing to the next part and get to know our community. I'd love to see a continual reduction in these numbers. Is there a bottom to these numbers? Probably. If anybody that's ever taken a master's level class, they talk about statistical regression. There's a bottom that you're not going to get below.
It's going to get.
But I don't want to be satisfied. I want to keep trying to push it lower till everybody says you're probably not going to get him any lower. And I want to push to get lower the next year. There's going to be a year probably at some point where they're going to go back up. But so I think that's a big one. Our staffing at the police department is great right now. I want to keep that going. I want to keep when you talk about just overall goals of the police department.
Yeah.
I'd like to keep that number full because we got officers that want to work here and want to stay here and get the level of experience up. And guys, now that instead of just having a bunch of 2 and 3 year officers, that I've got 7, 8, 10-year officers, very experienced, very good at what they do. The community knows them. They know the community, and just continuing problem solving efforts. To me, those are my big priorities for 2026.
What message, if you could think of one, what message do you want the community to take away from this conversation today?
I think the one I started with is don't let social media fool you.
I had a feeling that's where you was going to go.
You live in a safe city. You really do. it's funny. Everybody talks about being scared of a violent crime. You're 7 times more likely to be injured in a car crash than you are to be injured from a violent crime. That number shocks people because they want to go and they're careful and making sure where they're going, and they got their gun with them. And again, I'm not bad-mouthing having your gun with them, but they're all worried about that. But those same people will get out here on the road driving too fast, running red lights, and texting on their phone while they're doing all of that. You're much more likely to be injured that way. And that's a huge quality of life issue. So to me, that's one of the things the public I would like to know. One, you live in a safe town. You want to make it safer. Pay attention to what you're doing when you're behind that vehicle, that 5,000 pounds going 60 miles an hour. I need you to pay attention to what you're doing on the road. And so many community meetings we go to, people go, well, I had this was going on, but I didn't want to bother the police department. And then you show up and you're like, telling me about this problem in your neighborhood. And I'm like, did you call the police? And they say, well, I didn't want to bother you. That's not a bother. That's why we're here. Mm-hmm. If something doesn't look right in your neighborhood, if something is bothering you in your neighborhood, that's why the police department exists. Call us. We want to be approachable. We want you to approach us. Maybe you call us and it's not a police-related problem. We will point you in the direction of the department that can help you with that. But that's how we all get better, is communicating and talking to each other.
Absolutely. So we're going to wrap. Those are our last couple questions. So, Chief, thanks for coming on today and talking about crime stats. I really appreciate it. And I think this is a really good episode. It's always interesting to hear.
Here, we believe in an informed community. For when you all are informed, it creates a safe community. And here at Longview PD, we are definitely committed to keeping you all informed. Yet again, Chief, Assistant Chief, thank you, sir, for taking time out to do this. Want to encourage our listeners that, hey, this comes out every single month. On the 15th of the month, that's what we shoot for. So share it with your friends, your loved ones, so everyone can learn that, hey, Longview is a lot safer than what a lot of people may think.
Absolutely. And with that, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Wanna hear you go.